In 2023, we took a Viking Mediterranean Italian Sojourn cruise. It started in Barcelona, Spain to Sète and Marseille, France, Monaco, then we hit Florence, Pisa, Rome, Naples, Pompeii, Messina, Sicily, Crotone and Bari, Italy, Sabinik, Croatia, ending in Venice, Italy. Bari, Italy has a special place for me and my mother's side of the family. Both my grandparents came from here in the early part of the 20th century. I'm not exactly sure of when. My grandfather came over first, and then in an arranged marriage setup, my grandmother came over afterwards. Apparently, there was a social difference between my grandfather's family and my grandmother's family. He came over on a ship you wouldn't want to carry your mail on, and my grandmother came over on a cruise ship. To me, the entire reason to do this particular Viking cruise was to come here. Even Venice or Messina wasn't the real draw for me. But something cosmic happened while we were here. Just prior to leaving, I had an attack of sciatica and could barely walk, but it subsided just before the trip and things were fine the entire cruise until we hit Bari. I was only able to walk around for a bit. Then I felt like I was going to go down on the pavement, so I had to go back to the ship. My initial plan was to look up some of the streets that were in my grandfather's scrapbook. However, according to my mother, my grandfather cut all ties to Bari after he was forced to return to fight in World War I. This was evidently a requirement of all Italians who emigrated to the U.S. in the late 19th century. He never spoke about it or expressed any desire to remain in contact. When my mother was a kid, she'd ask, and he would simply say, "I'm an American now," and that was the end of the conversation. Not only did I get sick, I couldn't find the list of addresses that I had planned to bring with me. But as soon as I got back to the ship, I found them. It was as if I had been prevented from doing any family research while I was actually in Bari. Bari is the second most important economic center of mainland southern Italy after Naples. It is a port and a university city, as well as the city of St. Nicholas. All modern versions of Santa Claus, not the Coca-Cola chubby red-suited guy version, the initial version, were derived from the St. Nicholas of Bari, Bishop of Myra, who is said to have found and revived 5 children kidnapped and killed by an innkeeper, and was therefore considered a protector of children. Bari is made up of 4 different urban sections. To the north is the closely built Old Town on the peninsula between the 2 modern harbors. This has the Basilica of St. Nicholas and the Cathedral of San Sabino, and this was where we spent most of the time that I was allowed to spend, and I was hoping that this would have been the area that I could have done the research. Bari seems to be sectionalized intentionally. There is a major shopping district, a major nightlife district, a major old town district, and a lot of modern residential zones that surround the center that were just recently built, or at least in the 1960s and 70s, that had been replacing the old suburbs that had been developed along roads spreading outwards from the gates in the city walls. Bari's no small town along the coast. The city had strong Greek influences before the Roman era. Matter of fact, I sort of thought that my grandfather had a little bit of Greek in him. In the 3rd century BC, it became part of the Roman Republic and then became Romanized. Until the arrival of the Normans, Bari continued to be governed by the Longobards and the Byzantines with only occasional interruptions. A little bit of the dark side of Bari is during the Middle Ages, it was a center of the Slavic slave trade. The Basilica of San Nicola was founded in 1087 to receive the relics of that saint, which were absconded from Myra in Lycia in Byzantine territory. The saint began his development from St. Nicholas of Myra into St. Nicholas of Bari and began to attract pilgrims. In 1095, Peter the Hermit preached the first crusade here. In October 1098, Urban II, who had consecrated the basilica in 1089, convened the Council of Bari, where they tried to reconcile the split between the Western Catholics and the Orthodox Christians. It didn't work. Bari fell into Allied hands in September of 1943, and it became a vital port for Allied supplies. The Allies were afraid that Hitler would use poison gas as a last-ditch effort on the Allies once they began to enter Germany. So Churchill, Eisenhower, and President Roosevelt secretly sent ships loaded with mustard gas to the Bari port. Now, it will never be known if it was dumb luck or if the Germans knew of the gas, but a bombing raid of 105 German bombers attacked the harbor, destroying many of the Allied ships. The U.S. Liberty ship John Harvey caught fire and exploded, sending her secret cargo of 2,000 bombs filled with deadly mustard gas spewing into the atmosphere, killing and permanently injuring civilians and military personnel. This was covered up by both the British and the American governments until fairly recently. I was very disappointed in myself for not being able to spend the time here that I wanted. Like I said, it was almost cosmic that my grandfather may just not have wanted me to. But anyway, on to Sabanek, Croatia.